Welcome to Bloom Into Your Soul, a podcast for mothers who are mothering themselves as they raise children, reclaim their mental, physical, and spiritual health, and rewrite the story of their life by living from their wholeness and in their essence. I am your host, Jeanette, a mother, poet, highly sensitive, creative, and guide with a deep passion for ending generational cycles and revolutionizing motherhood. Thank you for coming along for the ride. It is my hope that the guests that come into this space, along with insights I share, can awaken your curiosity to reclaim your own life on a mind, body, and soul level. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bloom Into Your Soul. Today I'm speaking with Rachel West, who is a doula and childbirth educator in San Antonio area since 2015. In addition to holding a master's degree in sociology, she's certified as a Lamaze Childbirth Educator, labor and postpartum doula, and hypnobirthing educator. Accompanying her local birth work, she also occupies the position of implementation advisor for group prenatal care at Centering Health Institute. Outside of work, Rachel enjoys baking, tending to her little garden, and spending time with family, practicing yoga and Tai Chi, and overwhelming her dog with love and affection. In this episode, we'll be diving into the conversation of birth story processing and the postpartum blessing ceremony, which is a ritual and a beautiful honoring of our postpartum body, and something I had the honor to have after having my daughter. And it was a very beautiful way in which I came back to myself after having a daughter and being, as we talk about in the episode, open. And so I thought that it was very important to talk about this because it's not spoken about in our society. Most of the time it's like have your baby and then just it's a quick transition, but there's a reverence to our body, and I believe that in honoring this reverence and the work that it has just done by creating a child and bringing that child earthside, when we honor that our body in that way, we're healing so many other factors in ourselves and within generations. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's a beautiful episode. Let me know what you think over on Instagram when you are done, and enjoy. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for taking the time to be a guest on Boom Into Your Soul. I'm really excited to have this conversation about the birth process and processing our birth story. I'm sorry, and my words kind of slipped. And closing of the bones ceremony, or postpartum blessing ceremony. If you can tell the listeners a little bit of who you are and what it is you do before we dive into the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today. So again, my name is Rachel West. I am a certified labor doula, certified postpartum doula, Lamaze certified childbirth educator, and hypnobirthing instructor. So I am really immersed in all things growing families, and it's really it's my soul work, my passion work, and I'm just endlessly grateful. Right now I work with a collective primarily doing labor doula work and some postnatal birth processing, mother blessings or parent blessings, and belly binding. I also work for an organization focused on group prenatal care, and so really bringing in the community into our care and into our prenatal experiences. So just really value the importance of community and social support throughout the childbearing process.
I think it's such important work that you're doing. We don't talk about it enough, I think. And I think it's crucial to care for the mom as you guys, as you do. Diving into our topic of today, can you tell the listeners, and you mentioned it as you told us about what you do, can you explain to us what is postpartum blessing ceremony, or closing of the bone ceremony, like some other cultures like to call it? Can you explain to us what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So the postpartum mother blessing or parent blessing, it goes by many names, like you mentioned, traditionally closing of the bone ceremony. In the American Indian population, you might hear them refer to it as a blessing way, right? Which can be done either prenatally or postnatally. So many different cultural roots to this ceremony. And I've had the honor of learning how a number of different people and birth workers do it, and have really sort of made this ceremony my own in ways, but always like to give acknowledgement to the historical and cultural roots of this sacred ceremony. It usually occurs roughly 6 weeks postpartum, and it is a signal of the transition from pregnancy into parenthood, right? And moving out of that state of being very open, right? Open both physically, open emotionally, open spiritually during our pregnancy, and of course during childbirth, towards a place of closure. And again, that's closure with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And it really helps to signal that transition so that we can come into parenthood, or continue through the process of parenthood feeling very secure and held and grounded, in ourselves and our bodies and minds. And so it's a really beautiful opportunity to process the labor and delivery experience, the pregnancy journey as well, and to spend some time just nurturing our bodies. A lot of times in the immediate postpartum, there's so much focus on baby, right? And as there should be, right? They're new to this world. They need a lot of love and care, and demand many things from us, right? And there is sometimes a lack of focus on the birthing person or the postpartum person. And it's important that we're able to spend this time during the ceremony really just focus on the person who just gave birth, right? And nurturing their bodies, right? Making sure that they're feeling relaxed and comfortable, making sure that they have the space to share everything that they need to say, to process. So in addition to kind of some birth story processing at the start, there, at least in the ceremony that I've created, there's space for a nice warm bath, and I'll use like some special herbs and salts in the bath that really just promote relaxation, promote healing, grounding. And I really like in that space to also lead a guided meditation. And the meditation is really focused on acknowledging where we are in our postnatal journey, accepting, loving, feeling gratitude for the place that we are in our healing journey, and the magic of pregnancy and what our bodies have done. And giving ourselves time and space in that guided meditation, and in the bath when we're surrounded by water, feeling really held and warm, to process and release anything that may not be serving us in these moments, or may not continue to serve us. And so it gives us time and space to, again, reflect, feel gratitude in the mindfulness and in the meditation, and also to acknowledge some uncomfortable feelings and beliefs, and work on releasing some of those, and really just fostering deep relaxation, right? Relaxation of the mind and body, so that when we come out of the bath and move into the wrapping or sealing portion of the ceremony, that the postpartum person is very comfortable and is open to that. And so moving out of the guided meditation and the warm herbal bath, we begin with gentle massage of the body, just really working to oxygenate the body. It also helps in that space for the people conducting the ceremony to be able to exchange loving touch and energy with the postnatal person. It gives us an opportunity to get to know each other energetically and physically as well. Although we've been spending time in the ceremony space, the touch brings in a different way of knowing each other, right? And so gentle massage from head to toes, focusing specifically on the abdominal region, our womb space and the magic within the womb, and just through that touch, just expressing that gratitude and the wishes for healing. And so after the massages, and I usually use like a warming oil during that, just to again keep the body nice and warm, keep that chi, that life force inside of you. Then we move to the sealing portion, and that's where rebosos or scarves or wraps are used to seal the body really from head to toe. And you can visualize this sort of looking something like a mummy, right? Where you're just feeling, you're totally wrapped. Mm-hmm. But when we seal the body or wrap each of the scarves, there's so much intentionality in it, right? That as we move down the body, we're providing different types of closure for each part of the body. What does the mind need before we wrap the head? What sort of closure can we bring into the mental space? What does the chest, the shoulders, they've been carrying so much, they've been so high up near our ears. If we've been learning or adopting a breastfeeding, a chest feeding practice, there's tension in that space. So how can we wrap and release tension as we seal the shoulders, the abdomen, of course, the most important space, right? And down the body. So lots of intentionality in the wrapping and sealing. And then there's time and space to just rest, be wrapped and just rest. It is not uncommon for postpartum people to even fall asleep at this point, because they just feel so held, and it might be the most held that they've felt in a really long time, or the most when their body's centered, back to themselves, right? Closed, composed, that they felt in a long time. And so there's space for just resting. And the last thing I'll say is ambiance is really important in the space as well. So just creating dim lights, salt rock lamps. I like to bring crystals into the space, essential oils, really just creating a nice ambiance for the ceremony and that transition from being so open to a place of closure.
It, like creating like such a sacred space for the mother. When you talk about it's the first time that she's felt held in a long time, and in my experience, and I'm pretty sure other moms can probably resonate, the feeling of security, of you've been open and you feel compressed and secure within mm-hmm. yourself. That's the feeling that comes to me. I want to circle back to the process of birth story processing, because I feel like it's so important, and we don't really focus a lot on this in society. I what I see, and this is my own lens coming through, is women, parents giving birth, and just transitioning on to what's next, caring for the baby, providing for the baby. And it's such a fast pace that I feel occurs that it can really cause like imbalance in all senses, like you said, the mind, the body, the spirit. And from my experience, birth processing can really ground us into moving into that transition a lot more calmly. Can you talk a little bit more of what birth processing is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. Evidence shows that our birth stories remain vivid for us the rest of our lives. Um, and people will say, well, I don't remember the pain, per se, which of course you don't, right? That's your naturally occurring hormones kind of helping to protect you. I said we wouldn't have multiple children if we could remember, the pain or the intensity, but we remember the sequence of events. We remember how we felt, right? We remember how we were treated. And so because that story remains so vivid, it's important that we give ourselves to the processing of it. We give ourselves to the contemplation of it, to the remembering, right? And so with birth story processing, I always like to remind people that what we're processing is the living story, right? We're never going to recount the story exactly how it happened. We just won't, because stories are living, stories evolve. The more that we tell them, we tell different versions of them, right? Our relationship with the story evolves. So what we're processing is the living story, the story that's showing up for you today, and the story that is impacting you now, right? And this evolves. We're freshly postpartum to when we're weeks or even months postpartum, but it's a space to recount the process, the series of events that took place in the birth. And for some people, this is the first time that they've ever said it aloud, right? Or, I'll usually ask people before birth story processing to write it out, right? And there's so much work and so many benefits to just recounting the story or writing down the story. It can be very healing and can be very activating, depending on how the experience was for you. So during the birth story processing, I really ask people to, as we move through the process, again, depending on how it is, assign different symbols to how they felt during the story or during their birth experience. Let me know how they're interacting with those symbols now, right? How is this living story impacting you? And it's less about how the living story is making you feel, right? You might feel joyous when reflecting on your birth experience. You might feel stressed, anxious, devastated even, just depending on your birth experience and how you perceive it. But it's less about how you feel, and it's important to recognize how we feel, but I'm curious how the birth story is showing up for you. What is it making you do, or what is it keeping you from doing? Right? So this is action, right? We can't control emotions. Emotions are fleeting. They come and they go, but actions are something that we can control, and we don't have to have a new emotion to have a new action. So it's very much the birth story processing, the last thing I really say about it is it's just the beginning, right? That birth story processing that we did in your Mother Blessing space, or the birth story processing that I'll do kind of individually with people, that's just the start. The processing takes a lifetime. Yeah. So it's really my goal during that time to give you the tools and resources that you might need to continue on that processing journey of the story, and to continue to reflect on the story in a way that is supportive and conducive to your growth and reflection.
I'm interested in circling back to the way that it's causing you to show up.
Yeah.
Can you give us examples?
Absolutely. So, and when I was taking like a birth story listening class, this was one of the harder things for me to grasp. We were doing a lot of this ourselves, and as a birth worker, there are many stories that I'm still holding, birth experiences that I'm still holding that are affecting me, in activating ways, right? Because it's everyone's experiences in the space. And so I was doing my own processing to learn how to help people process. And there were many times where I would say, well, this birth experience that I'm writing about is causing me to feel sad, or it's causing me to feel like I failed at my job, or I've let my friend or my client down in a certain way. And the educator, who is just incredible, she said, less about how this story is making you feel and more about what this story is making you do, right? And I had to sit in contemplation of that for a long time, because I consider myself someone very in tune with my feelings, right? And always just talking about how things make me feel, and I value other people's feelings.
Mhm.
Uh, but actions are different, and so I for example, I was telling a story where I had felt like, as a doula, that I had let my client down in a way. She had some birthing intentions, and her family had different intentions that she did, in terms of them, wanting her to have medical pain management when she wasn't wanting medical pain management. And they were very much in the birthing space. And really trying to sway her to get medical pain management. And I felt it felt hard for me to compete with her family.
Mhm.
It felt hard for me to say, I know your intentions. We've talked about this. Don't listen to them, because I honor her family and I honor their relationship. And she did end up going to get medical pain management, which in turn required a sequence of interventions, ultimately ending in abdominal birth. And so it was a lot for me to take out of that space, feeling like, I had let her down in a certain way, or I hadn't upheld or honored her wishes, and that had cascading effects. And so when I came to the point where I said, okay, what is this making me do? How is the story alive in me now? It's causing me to be less, I guess, showing up less in the birth community. I was feeling very vulnerable in the space. I was feeling less motivated to take on clients at that time. I was feeling sort of broken in ways. So less likely to take on clients. If I was engaging with my clients or pregnant people, I felt like I was acting a little bit more reserved, not coming into my advocacy and my agency in ways that I knew I could,
Mhm.
just because I had sort of felt broken, or less, like my spirit was taken from me in ways. And so it was taking a step back and saying, okay, what am I doing? What are my actions, right? Not taking on clients, not sitting in my agency or advocacy as much as I usually do. And that was really helpful, again, because I can't change my feelings about it, but I can change the way that I show up and what my actions are.
Mm. That is so insightful. I I think that sh- mm, our feelings, yes, like you said, matter. And how are we showing up? Because we can choose to feel depleted by motherhood. We can choose to feel what is that word? I'm looking for this word. Almost like overcome by the emotions of motherhood, because it comes with a lot. Or we can choose to rewrite the story
Mhm.
by birth processing, identifying how it's making us um, act, and switch that around, and the impact that that can do on a person, um, caring for a newborn, caring for a small life is tremendous. and,
It is.
and the nervous system regulation that that can bring, to just by switching from one story to another, like the calm that that can bring can spread into the family as a whole, like the baby, the both parents, if you have a partner. And I've seen it happen. And it's just it's just amazing what that does to women, to mothers, to parents. I want to talk about now the body aspect of it.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that we'll circle back to birth story processing, because I feel like the thoughts and the stories humming through our mind have a great impact on our body. And so
Definitely.
like you were saying that what happens next is a bath and a
Mhm.
meditation and um, just time to sit there and process even more so like the story that you have just shared.
Mhm.
And what have you noticed in your experience happens when moms are allowed to do this, or when birthing people are allowed to do this and just sit in meditation with this story that they've just shared?
It's emotional, it really is. And, um, there will be many times where I just see like the second a mom just even puts like her toe or her foot in the water, like this flood of emotion, right? This just like tears or this grand just like release, right? Of like, okay, I've been feeling all of these things for so long. I've been meeting my most basic needs for so long, nothing beyond that. For some moms like this, and I welcome babies into the ceremony if that's the dynamic and if that works best for the parent. But in some cases, the second parent can take care of the baby, or people will bring other family members in to care for the baby. So this is just time for the mom. And so in some cases, this might be the only time that she has really had just to sit and in that warm water, or just to really truly devote to herself. So it's emotional, it really is. And I think it's emotional, of course, because you told your story, you're moving through the postpartum period and the healing journey. But it's also emotional because it opens up this, it sort of reminds the birthing person, the postpartum person, that it's okay to give to yourself, right? To not only is it okay, but it's necessary, right? That like you said, when we have this nervous system regulation, when we have this time for ourselves and this processing, it ripples into the home space,
Mhm.
so it's very emotional. There are times that I just see moms cry through the whole meditation and the whole time in the bath. And tears are never a bad thing. It's so healing in that way. You've got the water, the salt, the herbs, and the salt water from the body, and it's a great meeting, of again feeling held in the water space, and also just a great space for release of feeling
Mhm.
emotions.
Yeah. The release, I could resonate with that. Um, I definitely like went into tears, like not like actual like a big cry, but just tears, just
Right.
uncontrollable tears just coming down. Like I didn't even
Mhm.
know that I needed to release like that. And I can definitely relate with that.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to like the herbs that you use, is there any herbs that like are you intentional with the herbs? Like what
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So of course, I use sea salt, just
Mhm.
the salt for relaxing the body and for, pulling out anything that's no longer serving us, right?
Yeah.
I use lavender, and just really to promote the relaxation and tranquility. Lavender has such a way of that. I also use rose petals because I think it brings in the divine feminine in many ways, right? To me, rose just is such a beautiful symbol of the divine feminine. And this journey is inherently, feminine in many ways. And, regardless of how people identify in terms of their sex or gender, there are feminine aspects to birth and to postpartum and parenthood, right? We have to sit in that feminine so much just to be parents, right? Both partners. So I think rose really symbolizes that for me, and I think for others. And um, just the color too of the dried rose petals, I think is very symbolic, that red kind of pink, and it's symbolic of the birth journey, right? Of blood is a part of it, right? So symbolic and representative of the divine feminine. I also put calendula in there, and that's just kind of to promote any healing that still needs to take place, and just to really sort of soothe the body.
Mm-hmm. Such supportive. I've found that those working with those herbs are like so supportive for me. When I think of, just to add a little bit to the rose, I think of the heart also,
Yes.
which the heart takes on a whole new shape after you become a parent. And so, yeah, those are so supportive. Um, when we leave the meditation space and the bath ritual, and then come to our massage and wrapping of the bones, can you tell us what do the, I want to call them Rabusos,
Uh-huh.
what their intention is, and how have you, like, again, give us an example of like what you've seen in your practice can do to a mom.
So that portion, really, is obviously the concluding portion, and it really symbolizes that, and I keep going back to being held, but there is such a need and a desire for postnatal people to be held, nurtured, mothered, and it's that act of just like somebody coming and literally just wrapping you up, right, and holding you. And some of us may not know that feeling outside of ourselves being
Right.
baby, right? And held and swaddled and cared for in that way. So it represents, so of course during pregnancy your body is releasing the relaxin hormone, and this relaxin hormone helps to soften and relax all of your bones, that helps to promote relaxation in the ligaments, right? And that's because our body is expanding, our body is growing, right? And we need that relaxin to kind of help us accommodate that. So immediately postpartum, your body's still releasing a bit of that relaxin hormone, and you might notice like, oh, I'm experiencing like some pelvic pain after getting birth. I'm feeling like my pelvis is kind of really loose, or not grounded, not stable, right? And you might notice that with other areas of your body, like you're kind of popping a lot, or your bones just feel different. And so the closing of the bones, the wrapping, one physically really symbolizes that sort of coming together, returning to that pre-pregnancy state of stability, of being grounded, of strength, and just again feeling rooted in your body. So it symbolizes that physical, coming together of the pelvis, especially, right, where it's gone from expanding from that pubic symphysis in the front to being really relaxed to accommodate that growing, pelvic inlet and outlet. It symbolizes that sort of coming together and closing of those spaces, which can just feel so nice. And two, having a newborn, you're in all these wonky positions all the time, right? Like if you're breastfeeding or chest feeding, that especially at first, you could find various positions for that. If you're co-sleeping, you're sleeping kind of around the baby, and if you have other kiddos in the bed as well, you're never quite laying in just a straight way that feels really comfortable and held. And so it really promotes alignment in the body, and again all of the bones and muscles. And then so physically, that's kind of what it symbolizes, is that closure and that stability. And then I really think that the ceiling even has greater emotional and spiritual benefits,
Uh-huh.
Because again, it's said that we are so open and we are so vulnerable as we navigate the pregnancy and labor and delivery. I mean, you are the most open you will ever be during, again, both physically and emotionally. And so it symbolizes that, okay, I can bring closure to these various aspects of my body. I can bring this sense of completion full circle. You know, I always talk about the circle of, well, the circle of life, the circle of birth, because, you know, if you have the baby in your belly, right, and then baby comes out of you and you put the baby directly on your chest, you complete that circle,
Yeah.
right? And so there are so many circles. Life is so circular in that way, but I really feel like this wrapping sort of completes that circle. It envelops you and completes the circle of the postnatal journey, right? I mean, we're always postpartum, you know, and notorious for saying postpartum is forever, because it is, but really kind of closing that journey of the postnatal, where I've been very open, you know, and now I'm moving towards a place of closure. And with that, I'm wrapping or encircling the body in that way. And so it's just nice to be held, like I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. And the massage prior to
Mm-hmm.
the focus in the womb space, and it also feels like you're being held. And I know that one of the basic needs for postpartum people is touch. And
Yes.
so the massage in the womb space, are there any benefits to that? Is there anything that you want to add for that?
Yeah, so, you know, the massage does take place from head to toe, and what's really nice is that, you know, when I usually conduct the ceremony, I have somebody with me, you know, and it's important to have both two people really hands-on the
Mhm.
postnatal person, so that when we move down the body, we can move in a symmetrical way, right? So that if I'm, you know, on rubbing one leg, foot, you know, leg and foot area, that my partner can rub the other side, and that there's kind of that symmetry that takes place. And when we get to the womb space, usually just one person working on the womb space, and I try and customize my touch based on the energetic feedback that I'm getting from the postnatal person. I feel like some people really like more firm touch, where I will sort of sweep my hands underneath the back, you know, the back, and really move over the abdominal area in a more firm way, right? Where I'm really sort of applying, you know, gentle enough but firmer pressure to the womb space, and really promoting that oxygenation, you know, of the space, promoting blood flow,
Mhm.
you know, and promoting you know, the healing that is continuing to take place in the womb space. You know, I will also work in a circular, a clockwise direction on the womb. And that just kind of moves with the digestive system, of course. And so, again, just kind of promoting movement and a release of anything that's not serving you. I mean, our core, our womb, our pelvic floor, these are areas that we hold a lot of tension. Um,
Mhm.
just naturally, we hold so much in this space. And so with the supportive movements, and with the movements flowing, you know, with digestion or with your life force, we're helping to promote kind of that release of anything that's not serving us, any tension in the space. Of course, if a person is healing from an abdominal birth, you know, I may spend extra time along the incision, just really kind of working to bring some movement and mobility into the space, right? It's very important that when you're cleared and ready to go, that you continue to massage that healing space, just for breaking up scar tissue and returning, you know, sensation to the space. So really, that massage looks different on everyone, just kind of depending on like what energy are they bringing to me. Do they just want me to gently place my hands on that space? Sometimes
Mhm.
even really massage it. Sometimes I just like place my hands on that space and just bring in my intuitive and energetic healing to the space. Sometimes I feel like more of like the movement or the flow, the promotion of moving stagnation is more important. So it really depends on what the postpartum person needs most.
I think it's all so beautiful and such a beautiful way to, um, like you said, go full circle. Like
Complete circle, yeah.
the mother, like becoming a parent, it's such a rite of passage that we've forgotten. And
Mm-hmm.
this ritual, this postpartum ceremony, I feel like brings back that sacred rite of passage of becoming a parent, of honoring the body and letting the mother know, the parent, the birth person know that they're they're seen, there's deeply sacred. Like they just like the way you say open, when you say open, for me that just kind of feels like a birthing person kind of travels between worlds, sort of
Mm-hmm.
like um that spark of life that begins in your womb space began from some other life form, and then you brought it to this world. And I
Yeah.
know that it's might be not resonant to others, but this is kind of what that visual comes to mind. And it's such, like you called it magic.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like you just created a life, and bringing back these practices like that were practiced back before we've forgotten, to honor the divine feminine. um it's so important. It's so important for, and we touched on it, the birthing person and the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my opinion, but if I feel like if mothers, pregnant folks were, birthing folks were cared for in this way, our numbers in mental health would be impacted by it,
Absolutely.
for the positive, for a
Absolutely.
positive, yes.
No
um
question.
Thank you so much for all of this information. I hope that whatever resonates with people, they take it with them. Whatever feels good for them in their heart, it helps them in some shape or form.
Yeah.
When you talk about wrapping a mother like in the way that you do, it gives me a visual of like wrapping a baby. And
Yes,
when I think of it, like a mom has just been born too.
you're right.
So when we wrap her in such a way, like if it helps our babies calm down and feel secure, like they're still in the womb, like the impact that does for the moms is also like so greatly beneficial.
I
Like they're
agree.
just born also, like
Yeah,
go ahead, you were going to say something.
I was just gonna say something. You made me think of something, and I think when we engage in these sorts of ceremonies or rituals, and these can look so different for everybody, right? Like your postnatal healing mother blessing ceremony or healing ceremony might look so different from what we've described here, and
Mhm.
that's okay. But when we engage in any of these rituals and honor these practices, we are reclaiming this journey not only for ourselves but for our ancestors before us who didn't have this, and for future generations. We are really healing, the experiences again of past and future by reclaiming this experience ourselves, and by doing this ourselves. And so of course the impact extends to our immediate families right now, but I argue that the impact goes so far beyond our time. by engaging in these ceremonies and rituals.
Yeah. I'm a very visual person, so I see things like when you were talking, I'm like visualizing what you're saying. I can see that impacting my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yes.
in the way she holds herself after she has children.
Yes.
And the like for others practicing this in a way that feels good and honors you, in the way that it'll impact them. And you're so passionate about this work. I feel so passionate about this work because for me, it all begins with the birthing folks.
Yes.
If we are tending to them holistically, then our future generation is going to thrive because
Agreed.
they're thriving. And so
You're right.
that's the way I see it, and the passion that I have behind this. Like, so thank you again so much for being here. I have two other, wait, first, before I ask these questions, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, just grateful to have this time and space. I will say, these ceremonies and rituals described here, and even the birth processing, I feel like it's pretty underutilized, right? It's a service, of course, that I offer and that we offer in our community, but no, I don't want to say it's very popular. And so I like to have this opportunity to talk about it for people to get a better knowing or understanding of it, right? If we don't know what something is, it seems foreign, it seems scary, it seems like something we don't want, but I think hopefully that through our conversation today, it's apparent that this really is beneficial for everyone, regardless of your birth experience, regardless of what number baby this is for you, or where you are in your postnatal journey. This ceremony can be done even years postpartum. So if you're still feeling that need, there's always time for the ceremony again, regardless of how many years postpartum you are.
Right, because postpartum is forever. Like
Part
it's
of
constant.
forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I want to add that the benefit it does for our energetic body as a whole is just tremendous. So even if it doesn't look like this for you, like even if it looks a certain different way for you, honoring the process that you have just gone through of creating a whole new life and bringing that life onto Earthside, it's just crucial and beneficial for you to just tend to yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Okay, let me ask these silly questions. I like to ask them because sometimes the topics that we discuss are pretty serious and very like, I guess our mood is more like trying to talk about the topic and mental health and everything, right? So I like to add these silly questions in, and they're not silly, they're just more lighthearted. One of them is, what is lighting you up these days?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's a relevant question. So I'm Jewish and I've just been practicing Hanukkah, right? And so we've just finished the celebration of light last night, and so relevant. I've just been thinking a lot about light over the past few days. So this is a great question, very relevant. I've been thinking a lot about prenatal support groups, and we've been working to conceptualize what that looks like right now that we're back in person with some classes and we're able to kind of gather, smaller but still groups of people. I really feel like that's an unmet need, at least in our community here in San Antonio. And so the thought of that, the planning of that, what that's going to look like is really just sparking a lot of joy for me. I've also been taking Tai Chi lately, which has been really new and exciting. And it's bringing this like fire into me, my soul and my spirit, which is new and so welcome. So those are like personal and professional ways I'm feeling the light.
Oh, I love it. Like I could see it. It's just radiating and I love it. And then this one is probably like the most funniest, but if you were an animal, what animal would you be and why?
That's a good question. I like to imagine myself as some sort of aquatic animal, but I'm not, exactly sure. Maybe it would be like, I don't know, maybe a dolphin or a jellyfish. And because I love the water so much, and I always just feel very at home in the water. And dolphins, are so mindful and sentient and emotional, right? I feel that. And then, maybe a jellyfish because they're so fluid, right? They have this
Mm,
immense ability to adapt and move and flow. And I aspire to be more that way.
yeah.
And so, yeah, those are maybe two that I align with.
Yeah. I love your answers. Like I always love asking these questions because it like helps me get to know you better, and I like get to see like live through your eyes, like your answer and the way you explain why. Oh, I love
Those
it.
are good
The
questions.
fluidity. Yeah, the jellyfish. I would never think a jellyfish. It's awesome the way you see that. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to share with the listeners of like any how they can work with you, anything you're like any hypnobirthing class that you're
Yeah.
going?
So we just finished our December hypnobirthing class. I expect that we'll start a new one probably February of 2022, which sounds very weird to say. But you can see, all of our resources and all of our upcoming events on at rooteddoula.com. So that's the collective that I work with, Rooted Birth Doula Collective. And so again, that's rooteddoula.com, and has all of our information on there. You can see all of the lovely and inspiring doulas that I work with. I'm so honored to be a part of that collective, and just check out all of the amazing resources that we have to offer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for taking this time and for doing what you do. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. There are so many other episodes coming your way with so much goodness and so much value, so don't forget to subscribe.